Right. Hi guys, so in this video I thought I'd do again just something a little bit different and talk about 10 films that I think are absolutely criminally underrated, and I think these deserve to be talked about a hell of a lot more. So you might look at these films and think, oh my god, I've never seen that before and I really fancy giving it a look. Or you might just look at all of these films and say, I've seen them all, none of them are underrated at all. Andy, what the hell are you talking about? But yeah, these are just movies that I think are massively underrated. Deserve to be talked about a hell of a lot more. I've picked 10. This isn't necessarily an order of my top 10 best to worst to best. They're just movies that I think deserve talking a hell of a lot more about. So, my first pick is That Thing You Do, written and directed and starring Tom Hanks. Absolutely fantastic film about this rock band that sort of find fame in the 60s, but they only really can manage to have a one hit with one song. And it's just a fantastic music-based band movie, Don't want to get into spoilers with it, but I just think it's one of Tom Hanks's best films. He has a smaller role in it, bit of a step back for him. But that's obviously because of he's put a lot of his effort into directing and writing the film. But as I said, it's so good. Liv Tyler's in it as well, who's absolutely great. Steve Zahn. It's got those little characters played by little actors that you pop up and you go, oh, it's that guy, or it's them, But I massively enjoyed this one. Thought it's really good. My next pick is The Age of Innocence by Martin Scorsese. I think this film is one of Scorsese's best, and it never ever gets talked about. See a lot of lists that get compiled about Martin Scorsese films. This doesn't even appear in the honourable mentions most times. It's just absolutely fantastic. Period drama by him, which I haven't really seen him do much more work with. It's got Daniel Day-Lewis, Michelle Pfeiffer, Winona Ryder, and it's just this sort of love triangle that forms between the three of them. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, just check this one out if you've not seen it. My next pick is Oliver Stone's Talk Radio. This is as good a film for me as his other films like JFK, The Doors, Platoon. This is absolutely fantastic. One of the best performances in a film I've ever seen by Eric Bogenschein. This movie is just so great. You've got Michael Wincott in there as well, John C. McGinley, Alec Baldwin. Movie pretty much takes place entirely in this radio station. But it's the conversations they have that are so riveting and so engaging. It's just absolutely fantastic, and it's such a shame it never ever gets the love it deserves. Next pick for me is Night on Earth by Jim Jarmusch. This film, again, it's so different and so unique. It follows 5 different cab rides that happen across the globe all at the same time, and again, it's the characters that make the film. It's so good. The performances in it are just absolutely superb. The scenery, the setting. I know the film, basically, the run of the film basically takes place in a cab with just different people. But it's so good, the dialogue. I can't recommend it enough. It's a slow burn movie, but again, as I said, it's the characters and the dialogue that keep you riveted and keep you hooked. My next pick for my most underrated movies is Clean and Sober with Michael Keaton. This is a film that's quite hard to find, but if you can find it and watch it, it's so worth it. It's just an absolutely fantastic performance from Keaton, who's one of my favourite actors. I said in my video about my favourite films from '88, this is the film that got him the role of Batman, in my opinion. It's just a fantastic performance by him. He was most known for sort of comedic roles at the time with movies like Mr. Mom, like Gung Ho, Johnny Dangerously. It's got Morgan Freeman in it as well, who we all know and love. Basically, he plays this sort of alcoholic and drug addict who basically has to spend time at this rehabilitation centre. It sounds quite depressing, but it's actually quite good. Tate Donovan's in this as well. I just absolutely love it and think it's superb. And again, one that doesn't get talked about enough. My next underrated pick is Running on Empty. Bar Stand By Me, this is my favourite River Phoenix movie. You could include Last Crusade in there as well, but he's not in it that long. But yeah, this movie's absolutely superb. It's one of those flawless movies as well. Done by Sidney Pollack, who directed 12 Angry Men. It basically follows this family who are on the run from the FBI because they caused an explosion, and Judd Hirsch, who plays the father, is very, very adamant and very stubborn that the family must stick together at all times because they're on the run. They're constantly on the move. But River Phoenix's character is like, this life isn't for me anymore. I want to branch off and break away and do my own thing. And it's just a fantastic family drama. But unusual circumstances, but it's just an absolutely superb film, and yeah, that's why it's on the list. So, my next pick is Alfonso Cuarón's A Little Princess. Now, you might think, what the hell is this doing on the list? This is like a kiddies girls film, which it is, but it's so much more than that. The story to this is just absolutely superb. It follows this girl whose mum's no longer around. Her father's raised her in India, but he's called to war and has to send her to school in New York. And basically she gets the best of everything because her father's quite well off. So she has like the best room, the best clothes, all that stuff. And obviously the antagonist of this is pretty much the headmistress of the school. But her father's actually declared missing in war and declared dead. So what happens is the money stops coming in. So she's made then to become a servant to all the other students. But she has all these stories as well, which just absolutely rivet everyone. And it has probably one of the most satisfying endings to a film. As I said, the antagonist, she does something absolutely despicable at the end of this film, which is just, it's awful, but she does really, really get a comeuppance. As I said, directed by Alfonso Cuarón, one of his best films. You know, he did Children of Men and Gravity and Prisoner of Azkaban. Not seen Roma yet, but this is one of my favourites by him. My next pick for most underrated film is Man from Earth. I absolutely fell in love with this film when I saw it. It's a very small film. It pretty much takes place entirely in one room, but it's a conversation that is just so interesting and so engaging and really makes you think. Basically, the premise is there's a group of teachers who are basically go to this cabin and they're saying goodbye to one of their friends because he's leaving. He's basically leaving and moving on. But the reasons to why he's leaving and moving on, he basically convinces all his colleagues that he's Jesus Christ and that he never really stays in the same place more than 10 years to to gather suspicion. And he's basically been alive for a very, very long time. But it's the conversation that takes place, and it's just so great and so superb. And it's so riveting. And it's never, ever gets talked about. And it's fantastic. Probably the most recognisable actor in this is Tony Todd. It's also got the guy in it who was in Carrie and House and Big Wednesday. But yeah, as I said, criminally underseen and is well worth your time. My next underrated pick is The Last American Virgin. Really hard to find now, unfortunately, on Blu-ray because I believe it's out of print. But your typical teen sex comedy, this film was pretty much no different. At least that's what I thought going into this film. The first half of the movie, that's pretty much it, what you'd expect. But the second half of the movie just takes a much more serious tone, and it ends on a note which I didn't really see coming. It sort of pulled the carpet from underneath me a little bit, and it's very, very grounded and very, very realistic. Heartbreaking, because of how you get invested with the characters. But that would happen in real life, the way this movie ends. I won't spoil it, but yeah, it made me give the movie so much more credit, and I had to tip my hat to it. It's wonderfully done. The end of this film, the last half hour, 20 minutes or so, soundtrack in it is just absolutely brilliant. I love REO Speedwagon and Journey. I love those type of bands. But yeah, it's that second half that really makes the film. My last honourable mention, well, not honourable mention, sorry, my last pick for underrated movie is Joe Dante's Matinee with John Goodman. This is a great movie about movies, and it's just absolutely fantastic. It takes place during this Cuban missile strike that's could potentially happen. And it's basically about this movie coming out called Mant, which is directed by John Goodman's character, and how pretty much this town goes absolute apeshit over its release, and they just don't want it released. Very sort of similar thing with what happened to Joker a couple of years ago. A film was coming out, nobody wanted it to get released because of how they thought it was going to affect society without actually seeing the film. Yeah, it's ahead of its time, this movie, and one of Joe Dante's best, in my opinion. It's so good and so great. I don't know how out of print this copy is. I don't know if it's still available, but if you can get your hands on it, check it out. So, they're just 10 of my picks that I really enjoy and really think are underrated and do not get the love that they deserve. I've seen a lot of lists lately about underrated films, and they haven't really struck me as underrated movies or underrated picks. But yeah, to me, underrated is like off the radar completely. Like, people don't even remember it. That to me defines underrated. The ones you really have to look hard for. But yeah, these are all gems in my opinion. So I'm going to just say thanks very much for watching, and if you've got any recommendations about what you would think are underrated movies, leave them in the comments below, and think about subscribing to the channel. It'll really help it out. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there and say thanks very much for watching, and take care.